What's going on, friends and family? It's your boy Trexus here. I'm gonna do a short video for you guys because I'm getting lots of people who always come to me all the time asking me, Barrett, why am I shooting low and to the left? This is just something that gun instructors we're always plagued with as people ask us all the time, and we feel like we're being extremely redundant, and it doesn't matter how many videos we make or how many times we say it, we still have to say it again and again because people are, as they join the shooting community, they're learning new things and so on and so forth. So let's get into it. Why am I shooting low and to the left? So here's my target. You go to the range, put the gun in your hand, and you're like, and I'm gonna line up my target. So what you do is you do this perfect little sight picture. And we're gonna call this what has been traditionally known as a combat sight picture. What this looks like is you've got your back sight. Usually it's got 2 posts or something along those lines. You've got 3 dots usually, or if you're shooting a Glock, you got a big U and then a dot. And then when you align this horizon right here, and you take that horizon and you superimpose that horizon to where the horizon's right here and your center dot is right here. This is what we kind of call a combat sight picture. There's lots of different sight pictures out there, like 12 o'clock holds, 6 o'clock holds, sub 6 holds. You can Google all those things. But you've got that, you're putting it right in the center of the target, but you are hitting boom, you're hitting here, boom, you're hitting here, boom, you're hitting here, or boom, you're hitting here. You know what I'm talking about? Guys, believe it or not, I do this too, to some varying degree. So what is it, and how can we correct it? It's a fantastic question. I'm glad you've asked it. I've got a unloaded Wilson Combat, Beretta Centurion right here. It can't hurt me or anybody else around me, so good news for that. When you go to grip your pistol and you're pressing it down range and you're getting that perfect sight picture, when you go to press this trigger, your brain is telling you the gun is going to fly off out of your hands and go kill a toddler somewhere, like CNN likes to say. So what you end up doing is, as you go to press this trigger, you simultaneously squeeze this hand. Because it's like these fingers and these digits, we know what's going to happen. The gun's going to kick. And so to keep it from kicking, we've got this kind of let's say 60% grip, where we're gripping it with about 60% of our strength. And then we grip it about 100% of our strength. There's something along those lines. What's happening is that your finger, or your basic, your palm of your hand, the pads of your hand, as you press the gun into the frame, you're reducing all of that flesh down to your skeletal system, down to your actual metacarpals and down to your actual skeleton system. That space is being slightly taken away, and what happens as you go to press the trigger, this is what happens. See how perfect it's right there? I'm pressing, this hand is reducing the space. The shot breaks as the barrel is moving down, or you move the gun off the target and you press the trigger somewhere along those lines. The gun comes up, you settle it back upon the target, the sights go back to where they originally were, but the shots land someplace else. And then you're left to think, oh my gosh, I suck, or are the sights off, or something along those lines. So that is normally, for the most part, why you are shooting low and to the left. Your left hand is over squeezing the gun as you go to press the trigger. It's very, very simple. So how do we correct it? Awesome. There's a number of ways to correct this, but primarily a number of things that I share with people are know thy trigger. Each trigger has what we're going to call a wall, a bit of resistance, where as I press that wall, into that wall, that trigger is communicating to me, Senor, if you pull me in front of her, I'm going to go off. And I'm like, okay, little Mexican. That's just what goes off in my head. You may think of Taylor Swift or Selena Gomez or Morgan Freeman or your mother-in-law, whatever it happens it is, but it is a mental note that, hey, if I press this trigger any further, guess what's going to happen? It's going to go off. I don't want to start my trigger pull right here on like a Glock without taking away that pre-travel first, right? I don't want to go, boom, take all one big trigger pull. A lot of times for newer shooters, and that can become discouraging. For more advanced shooters, we can take all one big trigger pull and not disrupt the sights while we press the trigger. And essentially, that is what accuracy is. As we press the trigger, we are not moving the gun before the gun goes off. But because we have this body alarm response, this sympathetic nervous response, we know that just like we teach a dog to sit, As we press the trigger, we know what's going to happen. And our brain goes, ah! And so we squeeze the gun, and as we squeeze the gun, we're pushing or we're driving the gun low and to the left. So one thing is reduce the space and the time and the period of your the travel of your trigger. As you get better, you don't have to focus on that as much. I love what Kawa from his pages 2 Alpha to Quit says. We did a drill. He calls it the percentage drill, where you go 60%, 70%, 80%, 90%, and then somewhere around the 90 to 100%. As you kind of break up the pattern of the trigger, the gun goes off, helping you not have all of this time to react to the trigger before the trigger is actually pressed. So that's a pretty cool drill. Another great drill to do is have a buddy load snap caps. You can get them off of Amazon, which are basically fake bullets. They load them into your gun along with some real bullets, and as you go to do everything, you are guessing whether or not this is going to be a fake bullet, because if it is a fake bullet and you react to the shot before the shot's taken, you go, ah! And it's really funny to watch, and that shame kind of like helps train you to say, focus, 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 focus. And as you do that enough, essentially what happens is you turn into a shooter that doesn't really have to focus on the trigger pull. They just drive out their gun and they can shoot extremely well. That's another drill you can do. Another simple drill you can do is simply just focus on the front sights, or if you have a RMR, make sure that that reticle does not move. What I mean is we've got the sight picture. Focus so intently upon that sight picture that your focal plane, the front sight is in focus, the target is in focus, or you're focusing on the dot in the case of RMR shooting or optical shooting, and you're thinking, do not disrupt the sights, do not disrupt the sights, do not disrupt the sights as you press. That's one thing. For me, because all the world's greatest shooters, and I'm not one of them, they still have a problem with reacting to the shot before the shot's taken. But it is in what varying degree. Newer shooters tend to go, ah! While more advanced shooters just go, and they don't even react. But what reaction they do is very minuscule. One of the things that I do is I just think to myself, isolate, 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 isolate. Now, when I say that, what I mean to say is I've got my fingers, my hands right here. All my students have seen me do these things. I've got my fingers, they're on the gun, and all I'm doing is pressing this finger right here. If you are doing this, and while you do this, you're doing this, it's like this finger right here is that, it's like the popular kid that all the other kids want to be like, hey, what are we doing this weekend? Well, I'm going to go to the party and I'm going to press the trigger. I want to press the trigger too. I want to press the trigger too. But that's not your job. That's not my job. That's not your job. I should make finger puppets and do this. It'd be really funny. But the goal is to do this right here, right? And just this right here. So a great drill to do is what we call isolating drills or isolating finger drills, finger isolation drills. They're called bilateral transfer drills from Seth Hun. There's a number of other different fifth group guys that talk about bilateral transfer drills. I do this drill in my classes, in all of my classes. We know it as the drill that breeds racism and hate because it takes so much focus to just press the trigger with a simple trigger press. As you go with one hand, switch it over to your left hand and do the same. Essentially what you do is you're repping the right side of your brain, and the right side of your brain gains information, and that information is then translated over magically and basically through repetition over to your dominant shooting hand as you go to press the trigger. It's one of the drills that helps me, and it's one of the drills that helps some of the more advanced and world-renowned shooters out there. So that is why you're shooting low and to the left, and those are some things that you can do to correct it. This is a very crude video. I wish that I had I had a better capability to make something greater for you, but hopefully this helps. This is, again, there's tons of different exercises that you can do to ensure that you do better, but this is just a quick video. So hold fast, stay the course, true Exodus, out.